All right. So this is loud. Huh? Welcome to Delft, everyone. Welcome to the International Design Seminar. Welcome to INDESEM or INDESEM, I don't know how you call it, but it's all right. INDESEM has been initiated, organized, and curated by students, for students, and I'm very honored to open our 25th edition since we started in 1962. So welcome, everyone. I want to thank the Faculty of Architecture and all of those involved in helping us. Now a list of names: Linda van Keekum, Steven van Buren, Almer van Leeuwenburg, Javier Arpa Fernandez, Salomon Frausto, Dick van Gameren, and Georg Vrachliotis, who will open this year's edition after my talk. It feels surreal to stand before you all, especially in this scaffolding landscape in what we call the Orange Hall. I will open INDESEM with my beloved team and with you, our community of INDESEM 25. This is the place where it will happen, where we will make progress in designing, collaborating, thinking, playing, discussing, building, rebuilding, and learning. We play out what we see as an alternative architecture school. Hectic, inspiring, playful, enjoyable, and community-driven. So look at your left and look at your right. We are going to be that community, and we'll support each other in every step. Because what will happen after is not in our hands anymore. This is not a scripted conference. This is an open invitation, so it's really up to you guys. An experimental situation to find our position in this year's theme, obsolete. Obsolete, or the process of obsolescence, is not only a subject we study, but a condition we are dealing with in reality. Before taking position as INDESEM 25, I want to introduce to you my team, of whom everyone has worked so hard, with so much passion and so much interest. So I want to bring forward Fleur Klunhaar, Charlotte van Straten. I will first show a happier picture, by the way. Fleur Klunhaar, Charlotte van Straten, Laura Marini, Lucas Stolk, Rogier Doucet, Floor Mol, and Lars van Berkel forward. So this team has been working on curating logistics, finance, collaborations, ideas, experiments, design tasks, and making the whole project let's see, yeah. As head of branding and curator of speakers, Fleur Klunhaar and Charlotte van Straten have been curating, designing, and leading this event to a bigger public. This biennale will be about specificity, so architects we believe in, and trust to share their knowledge for a collective better future. Thank you, Charlotte, for bringing all these speakers in. Fleur has been in charge of our outreach, sharing our message in photography, graphics, and text. She's done an amazing job. I'm sure you've seen it all. We're fully picture-based, and I'm loving the style, so thank you, Fleur, for your contribution. Then we have Laura Marini and Lucas Stolk, our leads in finance and logistics. People that silently can make a difference for a well-organized event. They handled all money, appointments, travels, products, collaborations, logistics. It's so much to mention. Thank you, Laura and Lucas. You've done an amazing job. Next, I want to highlight a single person, now standing in his own creation, Rogier Doucet. Rogier envisioned a space for experimentation resembling an obsolete building environment. So we are right now basically on a construction site, which means we have to act as builders. We're not only designing. I want this stage to be very diverse. So please, we have 3 podia, stand everywhere during this INDESEM. There must be no hierarchy, as this is by students, for students. Rogier, you've done an amazing job in materializing this idea, and I want to thank you for it. At last, our power duo, Floor Mol and Lars van Berkel. I think you all noticed the amazing energy this duo has, especially yesterday. They have been head of contacts and secretary, and they have been bringing you over from all over the world. More than 70 students from 27 countries, 21 architecture and design schools from 4 different continents. This edition, we really do our name justice as International Design Seminar. Thank you, Floor and Lars. We are ready for all your questions this week regarding practicalities, program, lectures, locations, sleep accommodations. I hope you all slept very well last night. Must have been different experience in the Dutch student houses. And I want to give the word now to Georg Vrachliotis, our head of department of architecture and professor in theory of architecture and digital culture, who will be opening after me.
Okay, good morning. How are you doing today? Long night yesterday? I see, thumbs up. Good. So, dear students, dear INDESEM friends, dear colleagues, let's say on behalf of the Faculty of Architecture and the Built Environment, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all here in Delft again and to this year's INDESEM 25. Honestly, we are quite proud again and again to host such a vibrant gathering with a fantastic, brilliant team, this year's INDESEM team of international students, thinkers, I don't know, doers, architects, designers, and as you said, builders. Let's begin with something simple. Architecture doesn't start with a drawing. It starts with empathy, with attention and narratives, with asking how people live, how environments feel, and what stories are embedded in the spaces we usually pass by. As architects, we are constantly responding to forces beyond our control: economic, technical, cultural, political. Our housing crisis reshapes what kinds of buildings we can imagine. New energy standards and carbon limits force us to rethink materials and methods. Culture shifts ask us to reconsider who architecture is for, and political uncertainty often means designing in unstable or rapidly changing conditions. We move from deadline to deadline, of trying to stay one step ahead, of shifting expectations, tightening budgets, or the next software update. One week we are explaining energy performance to a skeptical municipality. The next, we are working models on reworking models for a client who changed their mind overnight. It's a sprint that never quite ends, but one that keeps us awake to what the world is asking from us. We submit proposals, refine visions, pitch ideas, often with too little time and too much at stake. And yet, within that pressure lies a quiet reward. Because designing is never just a response to urgency. It's a conversation, a negotiation, a moment of connection. That's the beauty of designing for someone, say a public social housing department, or a private stakeholder, your neighborhood, or your friends and family. This rhythm of urgency, of course, defines much of our discipline, but urgency alone is not enough. If we stay only in reaction mode, we risk becoming technicians of constraint. What we actually need is critical optimism, a mindset that acknowledges the challenges but insists on acting with imagination and care. Because as its core, architecture is a proposition, a continuous act of projecting a better world. A better world not as an abstract idea, but as something rooted in lived experience, collective needs, and material realities. But what exactly does that mean? What do we mean when we say better? Better housing, better infrastructure, better data, better for whom? And better measured by what? By efficiency, by aesthetics, or by costs? Think of the post-war apartment blocks across Europe. Many still structurally sound, yet dismissed as outdated. Are they really obsolete, or have we simply lost sight of the social values they once embodied? Or look at the first generation smartphones that now sit in your drawers, full of still functional parts, discarded not because they failed, but because something sleeker came along. In the world of tech, replacement is expected. Devices are designed to be updated and replaced. This is part of a culture of rapid cycles where innovation often means obsolescence by default. Architecture, on the other hand, is different. Our medium is slower, our materials are heavier, our consequences last longer. And yet both are pieces of design. Both shape how we live, how we communicate, and how we relate to the world. That is why we must be especially mindful. We cannot afford to treat buildings like smartphones, and perhaps we shouldn't treat smartphones like buildings either. The data world invites rapid turnover, but maybe we should begin to ask what a more thoughtful, more refined culture of technology could look like. One that learns something from architecture, from durability, craft, or spatial memory. And yet the very idea of architecture obsolescence has a history worth recalling. The term was first applied to the built environment in 1910, when American skyscrapers, still structurally sound, were declared outdated, not due to physical failure, but because of financial decay. Engineers like Reginald Bolton, for example, began to measure buildings by their economic lifespan, not their material one. Obsolescence became something quantifiable, categorized by building types. Hotels obsolescing faster than banks simply because taste and function shifted more rapidly. This helped rationalize the rapid cycles of demolition and renewal under capitalism, turning buildings into expandable assets and tying architecture's value to financial lifespan rather than social or cultural meaning. Of course, this is sort of a mythic thinking. Buildings do not age biologically. They do not disappear at 40 or 50. Their fate is shaped by politics, perception, and power, by the feelings of value or discomfort they trigger. What appears as inevitably decay is often simply a shift in collective attention or a loss of interest and care. And this is precisely why the architect's gaze matters. Because we are trained not to overlook, but to reframe. Not just to accept cycles of replacement, but to ask whether transformation is still possible. This tension between what is deemed obsolete and what might still hold value has been on my mind recently while reading a book called Abundance, which contrasts sharply with our theme today. Written by New York Times journalists Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson, it reminds us that architecture doesn't have to be defined by scarcity or loss. It can also be about creative reuse, care, and designing with what's already present. Abundance is about overflow, about access, imagination, and possibility. Obsolescence is about dismissal, forgetting, deletion. But the truth is, architects work in between. We are constantly choosing what to carry forward and what to let go. Every adaptive reuse project, every modular housing system, every material experiment is a negotiation between these two forces. We can learn something vital from this tension, that designing is not just about adding more, but about making better sense of what is already there. In a world saturated with options, it is the architect who might pause and say, this still matters, this building, this space, this community, this resource. Whether it's a silent corner of the city or a building that no longer fits its first function, we have the tools and, of course, the responsibility to turn forgotten things into foundations for something new. And this is why the theme of this year's INDESEM is so timely and so great. Because obsolescence is not only about buildings or products. It's also about people, ideas, values, and systems that have been declared outdated by the logics of speed, efficiency, and capital. But here's the good news. Nothing is ever truly obsolete. What becomes obsolete is often what no longer fits into a dominant narrative, what resists automation, what requires time, what can be monetized quickly. And yet, these are not just signs of loss. These are invitations to rethink and to rediscover. Obsolescence then becomes not a closing, but an opening. We live in a world where materials, data, and infrastructure flow across the planet. And so we face a different kind of design question today. Not just what to build, but how to preserve, reinterpret, and reinvent. Not just how to construct, but how to adapt, how to stay with what already exists. As students, you're entering the field at a strange time, I think. Old promises are fading, new tools are everywhere, and many of you are quietly asking, what is still meaningful? I don't have the definitive answer, of course, but I do believe this. Architecture matters not because it builds new things, but because it teaches us how to think with space, how to tell a story, how to read what is left behind, and how to design not just objects, but consequences. Let me end with two thoughts, personal, perhaps obvious to all of you. First, the future will not be made from scratch. It will be made from fragments from what we already have. Learn to work with what's there and learn to see nuance. That's how you create real impact. That is where your creativity becomes political. Second, be generous with your attention. That's your real resource. In a world that moves fast in every direction, the ability to pause, to notice, to reflect, and to ask questions, that is your superpower. Thank you again, great team, and welcome to INDESEM 25.
Let's see. Yes. Thank you, Georg, for giving such an inspiring introduction. And before introducing you to the week program, I want to share a personal account on organizing INDESEM, about expectations, ambitions, unexpected problems, of which we faced already one today, and results. So in May 2024, our process began. Some of us had only heard from INDESEM, but not yet participated. And why would we put our studies on a break and start this great endeavor? Well, the great thing of INDESEM is its autonomy. We, the students, are the initiators, organizers, and curators of such an event, which means we get to choose the theme, and the speakers, and the program, without supervision of the academic institute we are situated in. And before coming to a theme, obviously, we had to get acquainted to each other. Meaning numerous drinks, dinners, parties, travels. But during one of our travels, in which we didn't know where we wanted to host an INDESEM about, we sat down in a large exhibition space where a video was playing of a building being torn down very slow and delicately. And we came to the question, how does one come to the decision to erase a building, to erase not only its concrete structure, but foremost the soft, experienced, and social elements of all life in a building, brought down to gravel and dust. This experience brought the group to building sites, watching other buildings being demolished as well. We spoke with the contractors and with the builders, asking why, when is the new building coming. It was most of the time exactly the same building that was being placed, but then just a little bit higher and newer, obviously. We were searching for a word then, a theme that brought the practice of demolition to its essence, meaning what are the conditions of demolition, and that came back to the word obsolete, which means to fall into disuse, to be replaced, to become problematic, to be unwanted, to be unvalued. As a group, our view on this changed drastically after visiting Maarten van Kesterens' school in Utrecht. The school outgrew its spaces and formulated a design brief for an extension. But instead of focusing on every lacking aspect of their building, they formulated a design brief based on values, both socially, architecturally, urban, educative. They were building practitioner spaces, so they were very clear in their assignment. And we noticed that when things are valued intentionally, you see the existing elements that capture these values, as if these values can materialize themselves in the actual reality we are in. And thus you can design intentionally on these existing elements, coming to the conclusion that it does not have to be new if you attention on the right things, on the things you value. It does not have to be new, it just needs to be valued. So how to translate this experience into an alternative week of education. What does it need? It needed specificity. So no star architects that do the same presentation everywhere they go, asking for a large honorarium and not talking specifically on our subject. We needed people with specific skills and specific knowledge on the topic that see the scope and complexity of this problem. The problem that the question of values is too quickly answered by marking something as obsolete. So we needed knowledge on design, materiality, legislation, financialization, building, rebuilding, and speculation. We need to become different architects to establish alternative practices, to establish contemporary practices. And thus, we need an architecture education that allows for this transformation, to escape the cycle of demolition and creation. We need to change something and propose a model that makes the old one obsolete. Today, we will be followed by House Europe's film, Power to Renovation, a question of values, which we will watch and we will discuss together. After that, Harvard GSD Dean Sarah Whiting will be joining us. Then you will get a workshop on drawing on transformation hosted by 4 Dutch architecture firms. And we'll close today with a keynote lecture by 6A architect Stephanie MacDonald and her artist, colleague and friend, Carrick Tuning. Tonight we will host an open evening at Radius, which will be a lot of fun. It's a great building, it's an old water tower, and we will experience a real transformed building. I wish you all an inspiring, playful, insightful, and activating experience. Draw along every project. Take your sketchbooks, use them at every lecture. That's very important. Take a stance and capture these collective moments of learning. Thank you. Let's see.